My daughter went missing during school lunch, and when I found her, I was even more heartbroken. The call came at 1:15 on a Tuesday afternoon. Mrs. Garcia from Lincoln Elementary sounded nervous when she told me Emma hadn't returned from lunch recess. They'd searched the playground, checked all her usual spots, asked her friends. No one had seen my 7-year-old daughter since she finished eating her sandwich. I'm Sarah, and I dropped everything at work to race to the school. Emma was shy, but not the type to wander off or hide. She followed rules religiously and always stayed where teachers could see her. When I arrived, Principal Hayes was coordinating a full search of the building. They'd already called Emma's dad, my ex-husband Mike, who was driving over from his office downtown. The school resource officer was checking security cameras while teachers searched every classroom and bathroom. I felt that familiar panic rising in my chest, the same feeling I'd had when Emma was a toddler and briefly disappeared in Target. But this was different. Emma was older now, more aware. She wouldn't just vanish without a reason. Mrs. Garcia pulled me aside and said Emma had seemed different lately. Quieter during class, less interested in activities she usually loved. Yesterday, she'd asked to call home sick, but when they took her temperature, it was completely normal. She'd also started eating lunch alone instead of with her usual group of friends. I asked why no one had called me about these changes. Mrs. Garcia looked uncomfortable and said they'd planned to reach out this week, but Emma always insisted everything was fine when adults asked. She'd just started keeping to herself more, which wasn't unusual for kids adjusting to second grade. Mike arrived 20 minutes later, his face pale with worry. We split up to search different areas while the staff continued their systematic check of the building. I decided to look in places adults might not think to check. Storage closets, behind the stage in the multi-purpose room, the space under the main staircase. That's when I remembered Emma's obsession with the school garden behind the cafeteria. She'd mentioned it several times lately, asking strange questions about whether plants could hide secrets or if flowers had feelings. I'd thought it was typical 7-year-old curiosity, but now those conversations seemed odd. The garden was separated from the main playground by a chain-link fence with a gate that was supposed to stay locked during school hours. But when I tried the handle, it opened easily. The lock was broken, hanging loose on its chain. I walked through rows of vegetables and herbs that the third graders maintained as part of their science curriculum. The space felt isolated, hidden from view of the main building by a storage shed and tall sunflowers. I called Emma's name softly, not wanting to scare her if she was hiding. Then I heard it. Quiet crying coming from behind the tool shed. I found Emma curled up in a ball behind bags of potting soil, her face streaked with tears and dirt. She looked up when she saw me, and instead of relief, I saw pure fear in her eyes. Not fear of getting in trouble for leaving the playground, but real terror like she'd seen something awful. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice shaking, "I can't go back to class. They'll know I heard them talking." I knelt down and pulled her into my arms, feeling her small body trembling against mine. I asked what she'd heard, who she was afraid of, but Emma just shook her head and said she promised not to tell anyone what the grown-ups were doing in the supply room. That's when I realized the school hadn't lost my daughter. She'd been hiding from something happening inside the building, something that scared her enough to break every rule she'd ever learned about staying safe. And that's when I understood why finding her made everything so much worse. I hold Emma close, feeling her tiny body trembling against mine. Her tears soak through my blouse as I stroke her hair, trying to project a calm I absolutely do not feel. My mind races with terrible possibilities of what she might have overheard. "Sweetie, we need to tell Principal Hayes what happened," I whisper gently. "You're not in trouble. I promise." Emma shakes her head violently, her fingers digging into my arm. My blood runs cold. "Who said that, baby?" But Emma just buries her face deeper against my shoulder. I make a quick decision and text. I lift Emma into my arms, her legs wrapping around my waist like when she was a toddler, and carry her back toward the school building. She clings to me, face hidden against my neck, as we pass the broken garden gate. Principal Hayes is standing at the entrance when we return, relief washing over his face. "Thank God," he says, rushing forward. "Where was she?" "The garden," I reply, keeping my voice steady. "We need to talk in your office. Now." Something in my tone must register because he nods quickly and leads us through the hallways. Students are in classrooms, the corridors eerily quiet as our footsteps echo against the linoleum. Emma hasn't lifted her head once. In his office, Principal Hayes closes the door and offers Emma a chair, but she refuses to let go of me, so I sit with her in my lap. She's 7 years old but suddenly feels much younger, fragile in a way that makes my heart ache. Emma was hiding because she overheard something in the supply room, I explain, choosing my words carefully, something that scared her badly enough to run away and hide. Hayes's expression shifts subtly. "What supply room? What did she hear?" Before I can answer, the door opens and Mike bursts in, face flushed from running. He drops to his knees beside our chair, placing a gentle hand on Emma's back. "Hey, Emmy Bear," he says softly. "You okay?" Emma peeks out from my shoulder just enough to see him, then reaches one hand toward her father while keeping the other firmly gripped in my shirt. Mike takes her small hand in his, and for a moment, we're connected as a family again, drawn together by our daughter's fear. I've called the police, Hayes announces, and Emma's entire body goes rigid against mine. Standard procedure when a student goes missing, even briefly. I don't want to talk to police, Emma whispers, so quietly I almost miss it. They'll know I told. Mike and I exchange a look over her head. Something is very wrong here. Officer Reyes arrives 15 minutes later. She's the school resource officer, someone Emma knows from safety assemblies. She kneels in front of our chair, keeping her distance. Hey, Emma, she says gently. I heard you had a scary day. Can you tell me what happened? Emma shakes her head, face hidden again. Emma was hiding in the garden, I explain. She says she overheard grown-ups talking in the supply room and it scared her. Which supply room? Officer Reyes asks, the same question Hayes had posed. The one by the third-grade classrooms, Emma mumbles against my shoulder, surprising us all. Where they keep the paper and markers? Hayes shifts in his chair. That's just a standard supply closet. Teachers go in and out all day. Who did you hear in there, sweetie? Officer Reyes asks. Emma trembles harder. Mrs. Garcia. Mrs. Garcia chooses that moment to knock and enter the office, and Emma's reaction is immediate and visceral. She scrambles backward in my lap, nearly falling as she tries to get away, a small frightened sound escaping her throat. The look on Mrs. Garcia's face flickers between concern and something else I can't quite name before settling into a practiced expression of worry. I just wanted to check if Emma was all right. We're handling it, Mike says firmly, positioning himself between Emma and the teacher. Thank you. After Mrs. Garcia reluctantly leaves, Officer Reyes suggests interviewing Emma somewhere more comfortable. We move to the counselor's office with its softer chairs and stuffed animals. Emma picks up a worn teddy bear, holding it protectively against her chest. Emma, what were the grown-ups saying about kids? Officer Reyes asks once we're settled. I can't tell, Emma whispers. They'll hurt me. They'll hurt other kids. My heart pounds so hard I'm sure everyone can hear it. Mike's hand finds mine, squeezing tightly. No one is going to hurt you, Officer Reyes promises. Your mom and dad are here. I'm here. We'll protect you. Emma looks up, eyes swimming with tears. They said some kids were going on a special trip, but they weren't really going on a trip. They were going to be sold. The room goes absolutely still. Officer Reyes maintains her composure, but I see her hand tighten on her notepad. Sold? She repeats carefully. What do you mean? Like in the movies when bad people take kids away from their families, Emma says. Mrs. Garcia said I might be good for the next group because nobody would miss the quiet ones as much. Mike makes a strangled sound beside me. I feel lightheaded, like the room is spinning. Officer Reyes stands abruptly. I need to make a call. Please stay right here. While she steps outside, Principal Hayes paces the small office. This is absurd. Emma must have misunderstood something she overheard. Mrs. Garcia has been with us for 12 years. My daughter doesn't lie, I snap, fury rising through my shock, and she's not confused about what she heard. Officer Reyes returns with two plainclothes detectives. They introduce themselves as Detectives Morales and Wilson from the Special Victims Unit. More questions follow, gentle but persistent. Emma gradually reveals more details. Dates mentioned, other teacher names, something about processing happening in the supply room. While Emma speaks with Detective Wilson, Morales pulls Hayes aside. Their conversation is tense, with Hayes repeatedly shaking his head. We're going to need to search that supply room, Morales announces. Hayes hesitates. Don't you need a warrant? Not on school property during an active investigation involving potential harm to minors, Morales counters. But I can get one if you'd prefer to wait. Something in Hayes' expression hardens. Fine. But this is ridiculous. He leads the detectives out, leaving us with Officer Reyes and Detective Wilson. Emma has finally exhausted her tears, sitting quietly between Mike and me on the small couch. You did the right thing by hiding when you felt scared, Detective Wilson tells her. 30 minutes later, Detective Morales returns. His face tells us everything before he speaks. We found evidence in the supply room, he says quietly. Photos, documents, travel arrangements. We're seizing everything as evidence. Hayes is conspicuously absent. Where's Principal Hayes? I ask. Currently being questioned, Morales replies, along with Mrs. Garcia and two other staff members Emma mentioned. The rest of the afternoon passes in a blur of statements and phone calls. The school goes into lockdown, parents arriving in panicked waves to collect their children as rumors spread. Emma remains glued to my side, refusing to let go even for a moment. As evening approaches, Detective Morales confirms they've found enough evidence to make arrests. The supply room contained documentation of what appears to be a trafficking operation using the school as a recruitment site. Certain students, quiet ones, those with less involved families, kids who wouldn't be missed immediately, were being targeted. Hayes calls an emergency meeting with select teachers before being taken to the station. From the school parking lot, I watch them filing into the conference room, faces grim. Some look shocked and horrified. Others appear nervous in a way that makes my skin crawl. I want to take Emma home, I tell Mike as we wait for the detectives to finish their preliminary investigation. She needs to feel safe tonight. He nods, surprising me with his lack of argument about custody arrangements. I'll follow you there. I don't think either of you should be alone right now. In the car, Emma finally falls asleep, exhaustion claiming her. I glance in the rearview mirror at her small face, peaceful now in sleep, and feel a surge of protective rage so powerful it takes my breath away. My daughter stumbled upon something evil hiding in plain sight at her elementary school, and now that the first thread has been pulled, I have a terrible feeling about how far this unraveling will go. I wake up at 3 a.m. to find Emma standing beside my bed, tears streaming silently down her face. For a moment, I think I'm dreaming, until her small hand touches my arm. I had a bad dream, she whispers. They were coming to get me. I pull her into bed with me, wrapping the blanket around us, both like a cocoon. She curls against me, her body still trembling. Mike is asleep on the couch downstairs. We decided he should stay over after everything that happened at Lincoln Elementary yesterday. Neither of us wanted Emma to be without both parents tonight. No one's going to get you, I promise. Smoothing her hair. Emma doesn't respond, just burrows deeper against me. Eventually, her breathing evens out, but I remain awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying yesterday's events in my mind. My 7-year-old daughter stumbled upon something unthinkable happening at her elementary school. The police found evidence in that supply room, actual documentation of a trafficking operation using the school as a recruitment site. I feel sick thinking about it. Morning comes too quickly. I call my office to take a personal day, then text Emma's pediatrician to schedule an emergency appointment. Mike makes pancakes downstairs while I help Emma get dressed. She's unusually quiet, methodically pulling on her clothes without her usual chatter about which socks match which shirt. The police called while you were sleeping, Mike tells me when we come downstairs. His voice is deliberately casual, but I can see the tension in his shoulders. They're executing search warrants at several staff members' homes today. They want us to bring Emma in for a formal statement when she's ready. Emma freezes halfway into her chair at the kitchen table. I don't want to. I sit beside her, taking her small hand in mine. I know it's scary, sweetie, but you're helping other kids by telling what you know. Mrs. Garcia will be mad at me, she whispers. Mike sets a plate of pancakes in front of her with more force than necessary. Mrs. Garcia is in very big trouble. She can't hurt you or anyone else now. They found more evidence, he tells me quietly while Emma picks at her breakfast. In the supply room, photos of kids, documentation, travel arrangements. Detective Morales, says Mrs. Garcia has been suspended pending investigation. My phone rings, Principal Hayes. I step into the living room to answer. Sarah, I'm calling about Emma, he begins, his voice professionally concerned. I understand she's been through a traumatic experience, but I want to assure you we're conducting a thorough internal investigation. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I cut him off, keeping my voice low so Emma won't hear. The police found evidence, Hayes, in your school. These allegations are extremely serious. He continues smoothly. Mrs. Garcia has been placed on administrative leave while we sort this out, but I'm concerned about Emma spreading rumors that could damage innocent people's reputations. Children often misinterpret what they overhear. The calculated reasonableness in his voice makes my skin crawl. My daughter isn't lying, I say firmly, and the police seem to agree, given they're executing search warrants as we speak. There's a long pause. I see. Well, I hope Emma feels better soon. When can we expect her back at school? She won't be returning to Lincoln Elementary, I tell him, ending the call before he can respond. When I return to the kitchen, Emma is explaining something to Mike, her voice barely audible. And they said some kids were special orders. That means someone asked for them specifically. Mike's face has gone ashen. He looks up as I enter, and I can see he's struggling to maintain composure. Emma was telling me more about what she heard in the supply room, he says, his voice strained. About their plans. I sit down beside Emma. Can you tell me too, sweetheart? Emma stares at her barely touched pancakes. They were talking about which kids to pick. Mrs. Garcia said quiet ones are better because they don't fight back as much. And kids whose parents work a lot, because it takes longer for anyone to notice they're gone. She looks up at me with eyes too old for her 7 years, like Jamie from my class. His mom works 2 jobs. The implications hit me like a physical blow. They were discussing which children to traffic, right there in the school supply room, as if selecting items from a catalog. Mike stands abruptly. I'm going to the school board. Right now. Hayes was trying to cover this up yesterday. He knows more than he's saying. I'll come with you after Emma's doctor appointment, I tell him. We need to document everything she's told us. While Mike gets ready to leave, I help Emma pack a small bag with her favorite stuffed animals and books. We're not staying here tonight. I've already booked a hotel room outside the district. The detectives suggested it might be safer until they've completed their initial investigation. At the pediatrician's office, Dr. Martinez spends an hour with Emma, gently asking questions and documenting her responses. Emma is reluctant at first, but gradually opens up. Doctor, Martinez's expression grows increasingly grave. I'm making a formal report to Child Protective Services, she tells me afterward, while Emma waits in the play area. Not about you, she adds quickly, seeing my alarm. About the school. Emma's account is detailed and consistent. Hallmarks of truthful disclosure. And she's describing classic grooming behavior. My phone buzzes with a text from Mike. Hayes denied everything. Claimed Emma misunderstood. When I pushed, he threatened lawsuit for defamation. Something's wrong. Coming to meet you now. As we leave the doctor's office, my phone rings with an unknown number. I almost ignore it, but answer at the last second. Is this Sarah? A voice asks, deliberately distorted. Emma's mother? Who is this? I demand, pulling Emma closer to me. Someone who knows what your daughter heard. Keep her quiet if you want her safe. This goes deeper than you know. People with power are involved. The police can't protect you. The call disconnects. I stand frozen in the parking lot, clutching Emma's hand so tightly she winces. Mom? She asks, looking up at me with frightened eyes. Was that one of the bad people? I force a smile I don't feel. Just a wrong number, sweetie. Let's go meet Daddy. But as I help her into the car, scanning the parking lot for anyone watching us, I know we've stumbled into something far more dangerous than I initially realized. This isn't just about Mrs. Garcia or a few corrupt teachers. Emma overheard plans for an organized trafficking operation running through Lincoln Elementary School, and someone powerful wants to make sure she doesn't tell anyone else what she knows. The threatening call replays in my mind as I drive to meet Mike. Keep her quiet if you want her safe. They know who we are. They know how to reach us. And they're watching. The hotel room feels like a fortress. Blinds drawn. Extra locks engaged. Mike's laptop open on the small desk as he obsessively refreshes news sites for updates. Emma is finally asleep, curled around her stuffed giraffe, exhausted from the day's events. I sit at the foot of her bed, watching her chest rise and fall, trying to process everything that's happened in the last 72 hours. My phone buzzes with a text from Detective Morales. Police executing search warrant at Hayes' residence now. Will update when complete. They're at Hayes' house, I whisper to Mike, who looks up from his computer with grim satisfaction. Good. I knew that bastard was involved deeper than he was letting on. The night passes in fitful bursts of sleep. Every noise in the hallway jolts me awake. Footsteps, the ice machine, distant laughter. I keep thinking about the threatening phone call. People with power are involved. How far does this go? Morning brings a flurry of activity. Detective Morales calls while I'm helping Emma brush her teeth. We found a ledger at Hayes' home, he says without preamble, hidden behind a false panel in his office bookcase. Names, dates, payments. At least 17 students over the past 3 years. My stomach drops. No, he interrupts quickly, but she was on a list labeled prospects, along with 6 other current students. I grip the bathroom counter to steady myself. What happens now? We need Emma to look at some photos. Can you bring her to the station? Emma balks at first, clutching my hand as we walk into the police station. The child interview room is deliberately non-threatening. Colorful walls, comfortable furniture, toys in the corner, but Emma sees through the facade immediately. I don't want to be here, she whispers. Detective Wilson, a woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice, kneels to Emma's level. I know this is scary, Emma, but you're helping us catch some very bad people. You're being incredibly brave. They show Emma photographs, school staff arranged like a yearbook page. Her small finger points without hesitation to 4 faces. Principal Hayes, Mrs. Garcia, Mr. Belmont the art teacher, and Miss Winters who runs the after-school program. These are the ones I heard talking in the supply room, she says quietly. They were talking about which kids would be good for special orders. Detective Wilson makes notes while Mike paces behind us, barely containing his rage. Special orders, he mutters. Like they're running a restaurant instead of... He stops himself, glancing at Emma. Did you ever hear them mention a garden? Detective Morales asks Emma suddenly. Emma nods. They said something about the garden being safe for keeping things. That no one looks there because it's just where the 3rd graders plant flowers. The detectives exchange a look I can't interpret. We need to search that garden, Morales says, standing abruptly. Now. An hour later, I'm standing at the edge of the school garden behind Lincoln Elementary's cafeteria, watching police officers in gloves carefully dig through the soil beds. Emma and Mike wait in the car with a police officer. I didn't want her to see this. Over here, calls one of the officers, kneeling by the sunflower patch. I move closer, despite Morales' warning gesture to stay back. The officer is lifting something from the soil, a waterproof container about the size of a shoebox. Inside are flash drives, a small notebook, and what look like passport photos of children I recognize from Emma's class. They buried evidence, I whisper, the horror of it washing over me. Right here in plain sight. Smart, Morales says grimly. Kids dig here all the time as part of their science curriculum. If anyone noticed disturbed soil, it would seem normal. As they continue searching, more containers emerge from the earth, 5 in total, hidden throughout the garden beds. Each contains documentation, names, dates, payments, travel arrangements. The scale of the operation becomes clearer with each discovery. This goes beyond Lincoln Elementary, Morales tells me as they bag the evidence. We're seeing connections to at least 3 other schools in neighboring districts. That evening, an emergency school board meeting is called. The community room is packed with terrified parents, angry teachers, and news crews hovering at the edges. I sit between Mike and Detective Morales, Emma safely with my mother across town. Board President Chambers calls for order, her voice shaking slightly. As you're all aware, serious allegations have been made regarding certain staff members at Lincoln Elementary. I want to assure everyone that we are cooperating fully with the police investigation and— My son was in Mrs. Garcia's class last year, a woman shouts from the back. Did you know she was targeting children? Did any of you know? The room erupts into chaos. Parents shouting questions, demanding answers, some crying openly. A teacher I recognize from Emma's first grade year stands up, her face ashen. I reported concerns about Mr. Belmont to administration last year, she says, her voice barely audible over the din. I saw him taking photos of children during recess. Principal Hayes told me I was overreacting and to mind my own business. More voices join in. Teachers who noticed suspicious behavior, parents whose children suddenly became withdrawn, staff who observed closed-door meetings between the accused. The picture that emerges is devastating. A systematic silencing of concerns, a culture of looking the other way. Midway through the meeting, Detective Wilson slips in beside me. Hayes is gone, she whispers. Officers went to bring him in for further questioning, but he cleared out his house, left in a hurry. My blood runs cold. He knows we found the garden evidence. The meeting dissolves into accusations and finger-pointing. Board members claim ignorance while parents demand accountability. I sit numb through it all, thinking of Emma and the 17 names in Hayes' ledger. How many children suffered while adults looked the other way? As we leave the meeting, my phone rings, an unknown number again. Against my better judgment, I answer. They won't find Hayes, the same distorted voice says. He has friends in high places, but you should check the airport. International terminal. He has a 9:40 flight to Jakarta. The call ends before I can respond. I grab Mike's arm. We need to tell Morales, now. 3 hours later, my phone lights up with a news alert. Elementary school principal arrested at airport attempting to flee country. The accompanying photo shows Hayes being led away in handcuffs, his face contorted with rage. I show it to Mike, who's been pacing our hotel room since we returned. They got him. One down, he says grimly. But this isn't over. Not by a long shot. Emma stirs in her sleep, mumbling something incoherent. I sit beside her, gently stroking her hair until she settles again. In the dim light, she looks so small, so vulnerable. My daughter stumbled into darkness, but her courage brought it into the light. My phone buzzes with a text from Detective Morales. Preliminary analysis of garden evidence links trafficking operation to donors. Officials beyond school. This is bigger than we thought. Keep Emma close. We'll have officers outside your hotel tonight. I show Mike the message, and his face hardens. We're not letting her out of our sight. No, I agree. Watching my daughter sleep? Not for a second. The school garden that once represented growth and innocence now feels tainted beyond redemption. But as I think about the evidence unearthed from its soil, I realize that sometimes the ugliest truths must be excavated before healing can begin. And this is just the beginning. The courtroom feels impossibly small as I sit on the hard wooden bench, watching Emma's small figure on the witness stand. She looks so tiny up there, her feet barely touching the floor, but her voice rings clear as she answers the prosecutor's questions. Mike's hand finds mine, squeezing tight enough that I can feel his wedding band, the one he still wears, despite our separation, pressing into my skin. Emma, can you tell us one more time what you heard that day in the supply room? The prosecutor asks gently. Emma takes a deep breath, her eyes finding mine across the courtroom. I nod slightly, trying to project a confidence I don't fully feel. Mrs. Garcia and Principal Hayes were talking about which kids would be good for special orders, she says, her voice small but steady. They said quiet ones are better because they don't fight back as much. And they talked about Jamie from my class because his mom works 2 jobs. I watch Hayes at the defense table, his face impassive, eyes fixed on some middle distance. He hasn't looked at Emma once during her testimony. Mrs. Garcia sits beside him, shoulders hunched, occasionally dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, a performance that fools no one after what the evidence has revealed. It's been 4 months since that Tuesday afternoon when Emma disappeared at 1:15 p.m., when I found her hiding behind the tool shed in the school garden. 4 months since she revealed what she'd overheard in the supply room. 4 months of police investigations, interviews, evidence collection, and horrifying revelations. The trial has dominated local news for weeks. Elementary school trafficking ring screams from every headline. The prosecution's opening statement revealed the network had been operating for nearly 7 years, with Lincoln Elementary as just one of several recruitment sites across 3 districts. When court adjourns for the day, Detective Morales meets us in the hallway. Emma did beautifully. he says, crouching to her level. You helped us understand exactly what was happening. Because of you, we've already rescued 14 children who were in the system. Emma nods solemnly, clutching her stuffed giraffe, the one she hasn't parted with since that first night at the hotel. Are they okay now? She asks. Morales' face softens. They're safe. That's what matters most. Back at our new apartment, we couldn't bear to return to the old one after the threatening calls. Mike helps me make dinner while Emma watches cartoons in the living room. We've fallen into an unexpected rhythm these past months, the three of us. Mike has been staying most nights on the pull-out couch, neither of us willing to leave Emma without both parents nearby. The forensic accountant testified today while you were at Emma's therapy appointment, Mike says quietly, chopping vegetables with more force than necessary. They traced payments through 7 different shell companies. Some of the money led back to donors on the school board. I pause, knife hovering over an onion. Which ones? Chambers and Williams, both arrested this morning. The school board president and vice president, people who smiled at school events, who shook parents' hands and promised to always put children first. How deep does this go? I whisper. Mike sets down his knife. The prosecutor says they've identified connections to trafficking networks in 3 states. The flash drives from the garden had encrypted files with customer information going back 5 years. Customer information. The words make me physically ill. These were children 7-year-olds like Emma, hiding behind tool sheds and sitting alone at lunch tables because they sensed something wrong but couldn't articulate their fear. 2 weeks later, the verdicts come in. Hayes receives 175 years, essentially life without parole. Mrs. Garcia, 120 years. Mr. Belmont and Miss Winters, 90 years each. The sentences for the board members and other conspirators range from 25 to 60 years. The judge's voice is like steel as she delivers each one, making it clear that the betrayal of trust makes their crimes particularly heinous. They're never getting out, I whisper to Mike as we exit the courtroom for the final time. None of them. Good, he says simply. Emma's nightmares gradually become less frequent as spring arrives. Her therapist, Dr. Levine, says she's making remarkable progress, though certain triggers still cause her to withdraw school supply rooms, sunflowers like those that grew in the garden, the smell of potting soil. One evening in April, as we're walking home from the park near our new apartment, Emma stops suddenly. I want to help the other kids, she announces. The ones like Jamie who got taken away. I kneel beside her. What do you mean, sweetie? I want to plant them a garden, she says. A real one. Not like the bad garden at Lincoln. Mike and I exchange glances over her head. That's a beautiful idea, I tell her. The next day, I contact Emma's new school, a small private academy with security cameras in every hallway and rigorous background checks for all staff. The principal, Miss Torres, listens to our request and immediately offers a plot of land behind the playground. We've been wanting to start a memorial garden anyway, she says, for healing. On a warm Saturday in May, exactly 1 year after Emma first overheard those conversations in the supply room, we gather with other families affected by the trafficking ring, parents whose children were rescued, teachers who reported suspicions and were ignored, community members still processing their shock and grief. Emma stands before them, suddenly looking older than her 8 years, a small shovel in her hand. This is a safe garden, she announces, for remembering and for growing new things. She digs the first hole, carefully placing a sunflower seed inside. Sunflowers follow the sun, she explains seriously. They always look toward the light, even when it's hard to find. One by one, other children step forward, Jamie among them, return to his mother after being rescued from a house 3 states away. They each plant something: marigolds, zinnias, tiny vegetable seedlings. As I watch them, these children finding their way back to innocence through dirt and seeds and growth, I feel Mike's arm slide around my waist. We haven't discussed our relationship, too focused on Emma's recovery and the trial, but something has shifted between us these past months. She's incredible, he murmurs, watching Emma patiently show a younger child how to water without drowning the seeds. She is, I agree. Later that night, after Emma is asleep, Mike and I sit on the balcony of our apartment, the spring air cool against our skin. I've been thinking, he says hesitantly, about us. I look at him, this man who dropped everything to help search for our daughter that Tuesday afternoon, who slept on our couch for months to keep nightmares at bay, who held my hand through every moment of the trial. Me too, I admit. I don't want to rush anything, he continues. Emma needs stability right now, but I also don't want to pretend I'm just staying here for her sake. I reach for his hand, feeling the familiar weight of it in mine. I'm not ready to fix everything at once, I tell him honestly, but I'm ready to try. He nods, understanding in his eyes, one day at a time. Like Emma's garden growth happens slowly, deliberately, with care and attention. Some wounds may never fully heal, but new life emerges nonetheless. The next morning, Emma announces she wants to invite her new friends from therapy group to see the garden. As I help her make invitations, carefully writing each name in crayon, I realize something has shifted in her too, a willingness to connect again, to trust. Mom, she asks, looking up from her colorful drawings, do you think the flowers will remember what happened? I consider this the weight of her question. I think they'll grow because of what happened. I tell her finally, they'll be stronger because they know how important it is to reach for the light. Emma nods, satisfied with this answer, and returns to her invitations. Outside our window, spring unfolds in bursts of green, each new leaf a small act of courage against the memory of winter.